Hey, good evening, everybody. Um, Welcome to the show. Going to be covering a few things here tonight. Nothing really big, just a couple clips that I'd watched of our good friend Darth Dawkins, kind of losing his mind over a few social things, political things, things like that. Usually, this guy ends up getting targeted because of his kind of crazy association with a precept argument that he has been clinging to like a sloth to a branch for the last decade or more. But every once in a while, people kind of forget that he's got some interesting takes on society and some other things too. People forget that he's an angry 60-plus-year-old cisgender white guy, maybe cisgender. I might be assuming that anyway. From Florida, I think, um, and so there's some rage there, some confusion, I think. Um, anyway, so I was going to get into a couple of them. One of them was this brief clip that at the top of this, I should say a couple of things. One, to clarify my title, right wing weirdo. I don't mean that Darth Dawkins, by virtue of being right wing, is a weirdo. Now, while I myself am left wing, or at least I consider myself left wing, I do have friends and associates that are right wing that I do not consider weirdos because they are right wing. But in this case, this should be taken as Darth Dawkins, I think, is a right wing and a weirdo. And he's weird about being right wing, if that makes sense. Two, the next most important point is that most of the stuff is coming from courtesy of Time Rabbit, who, as always, is gracious enough to take time out of his busy schedule to record a lot of the stuff and try to edit it out and find some of these tidbits. And these particular ones didn't get. I don't. His reaction. The first one I'm going to be looking at is Darth's reaction to the Derek Chauvin verdict, which is a conversation I guess he was having in one of his Discord servers, and then the other one is an older video in which, to preface, he's talking to a fellow Christian. He's giving him advice. So to set this up, first one kind of speaks for itself. So I'm going to go through that one first. It's very quick. And any reactions that you guys have to it, just leave them in the live chat. That one we'll get through quick. The second one is Darth tells a Christian to leave his church. That one I'm actually commenting on in response to last weekend. I was on Nakasuchi, the Raging Atheist's channel, and he and I had both stopped into Praise I Am's channel, and Darth was on there at the time, and both of us ended up getting kicked/muted, whatever, over claims that we made about Darth being kind of a bigot. I think for Knock was referencing Darth's reactions to the Derek Chauvin verdict and other things that he said in the past. I actually had proof of it, and I actually passed that on to Knock in a video I did later, and that is the Darth tells Christian to leave his church. The reasons why. So hopefully we will have time to get into both. Sydney Winston, Gary Milton is an angry, closeted homosexual. Don't know if that's the case. I know that he's angry. I mean, closeted. He might be closeted about a lot of things. I mean, he's only on Discord. It seems like at this point, and then he just like kind of pops up like a whitehead on YouTube in other people's channels. Like, this reminds me of something that Tom Rabbit once told me. He can't figure out why Darth hasn't been able to kind of corral interest in his opinions and his reactions into a kind of a very lucrative YouTube channel. I think part of that is because Darth lacks the imagination or lacks the self-awareness in order to actually figure out how to do that without getting himself banned from YouTube. And I think that's why he's probably scared of it. Jay writes, who wants to take bets on the number of DD minions that will be lurking? Could be plenty. Jack Burton, we're just childish trolls, according to the 60-year-old man who calls people the F word, not fuck, in Discord. Yeah. Yes. So anyway, I'm going to play this one. I'm going to share this one out. Let's see. This is Darth Dawkins reacts to Derek Chauvin verdict.
YouTube out there. Tom Rabbit likes to record these.
I'm going to speed this up a bit too.
Hey, Tom Rabbit.
Darth, I don't want to make you mad, but what do you think about the Derek Chauvin trial, the conclusion of it?
I think that they didn't even deliberate long enough where they could have gone over all of the testimony that went on for weeks. Okay, I think it's a tragedy of justice. I think they probably were motivated in part out of a fear of widespread riots. But the good news is, according to Alan Dershowitz, he said he definitely has an excellent case on appeal.
They did not sequester those jurors. Those jurors.
They were sequestered. This is false. Tim No Raggerts, whoever he is. The jury was partially sequestered during defense and prosecution presentation, and they were totally sequestered during final deliberations. Go look it up.
Could watch all the news of what was going on, everything that Mad Maxine said, everything that low IQ Biden said. They were all taking everything into consideration under that trial, and they didn't want. There was also one house where a former juror lived, where they had left pig blood in a pig head on the house. You tell me that's not jury tampering?
I have no idea what he's talking about there. That could have happened. I mean, it's a heated case, but I hadn't heard about that, so I'd have to look into it. I did attempt to look into it. I tried to do a search for it. I didn't find anything.
The guy had lethal levels of fentanyl in the system. Okay.
No, he didn't.
There was no clear trauma to the neck. One
didn't need to be.
Screen capture from the officer's cam showed that his knee was on the shoulder, not on the neck. Right.
Also, doesn't matter. The guy is prone on the asphalt. That doesn't matter. Like the idea that Darth is still reacting to the knee in the neck kind of thing. That was kind of an early meme. Like they needed to get the knee into the neck in order to pinch off blood flow. The guy was with his arms behind his back. His entire chest is pressed onto the pavement. You're going to have trouble breathing without someone putting pressure on you anywhere on your body. So eat it, Darth.
There's overwhelming reasonable doubt here, right?
There isn't.
So I think what happened is just an outrage to this guy. Look,
I agree. It was an outrage what happened to that guy, George Floyd, not Chauvin. Again, eat it, Darth.
There was a 15-year-old or 16-year-old girl who just got shot by the police, and they have them on the body cam of her having like a 6 or 7 inch knife blade. She's about to stab another girl, and she got shot by the police, and they're complaining about that.
Yep.
They, quote unquote, they. Not all of us are complaining about that. Those of us who have seen that footage and watch her do like the little clip up, grab the knife and then go after I think it's a girl in like a pink jogging outfit, presses her up against a car and goes to kill her, and the cop shoots her. Yeah, not a great look. Kind of a tough call. And really, it's only a tough call based on the fact that whether or not the cop may have needed, depending on the situation, draw your firearm, draw your taser. Depends on local training, depends on circumstances. That's kind of tough. I'm not marching in the streets for that one because I don't think that one's like that. That situation, Darth, is very different than George Floyd. But again, George Floyd was just going to die anyway, right? Like the amount of fentanyl and methamphetamine and atheism that was in his body, right? Like that was going to make him blow up. He was just going to burst into a pack of blood right in the back of the cop car. It was just a matter of time. The fact that he just happened to die on his way to the hospital, or yank, whatever. These guys always just, they astound me with their medical and scientific evidence. It's fantastic.
It's about mob rule at this point. They're trying to get the narrative painted at all costs. That's all it's about.
And did you see the knuckleheads on?
Yeah, my least favorite person on the planet is Antonio. Mostly because I think he's one of the most ignorant people I've ever heard in my life. And he's using the username 35-year-old virgin without any self-awareness or any irony at all. Like, it's great that he's 35 years old and unlaid because he's that pure a guy. Keep that in mind.
You see the knuckleheads on ESPN who, even after the guilty verdict, was saying, "Yeah, that's just not enough. That's just a token. That's just a token for us."
You know
We
what?
want real justice.
What is a sports channel doing covering this?
We have no idea.
Yeah. Well, not that I watch sports or sports channel, but if I did, I would never watch ESPN again.
That's not true. Darth Dawkins is uniquely well informed, and I would argue probably obsessed with women's gymnastics. He was actually talking about this quite a bit a few days ago.
I'm about done with sports. Even professional or college sports, with all this kneeling for the flag and garbage, I'm done with it.
It's just, you know.
Okay, when professional American sports are too woke for you, check yourself out. Right? Get some therapy. Seek some help. You need to consider some alternatives. Because really, at this point, you're starting to paint yourself into a corner.
What? These people are screwing their own industries. They are so alienating their fan base. The ratings for basketball, baseball, and football are way, way down.
What happened?
Is that true? Like, not the ratings might be down for like ESPN commentary, sports coverage, things like that. Depending on the where things are coming from. But are ratings really down for like? And here's the thing: during the last year, ratings have been down for sports events because of COVID, right? You don't have the same level of participation live, so you don't have that same kind of vicarious thrill if you're watching it from home. You're kind of watching these two isolated teams kind of operating in a bubble, there at least seemingly. And so sports fans admitted this sort of took the shine off the whole process. So, the idea that, well, this is, the wokeness is what's robbed people, is what's robbed ratings from sports. Like, I don't know if that's the case. It might have been, I don't know, the plague.
Happened in the trial? I hadn't heard what the result was.
They convicted him, I believe, on all counts.
He's guilty on all charges.
Oh, really?
Well, the good news is he has a number of different options for a very serious and credible appeal.
I think a large part of it was that they didn't want the riots to start, because if they wouldn't have convicted him, I'm pretty sure people would have started rioting.
Look, given the riots that happened, already, that higher courts are going to have to realize that the guy could not have, given all this publicity, gotten a fair trial. But from now on, there's a new rule. Okay, he's now known as Fentanyl Floyd.
Hey, bro, I gotta stop you right there, man. Come on, man. Why you gotta say that?
Okay, he's known as Fentanyl Floyd to guys that operate in sort of the weird, blogosphere sewers that Darth Dawkins operates in. For everybody else who knows that he had trace amounts of fentanyl and trace amounts of methamphetamine, right? They tried to equate this with being a speedball. And actually, the defense attorney for Chauvin tried to do the same thing. And even within his own statement, he sort of like almost contradicts the impact of whether or not it was a speedball. It's like, well, there was some fentanyl in there and possibly some meth, possibly it was a speedball. Like possibly, like what's the case here? Like, it wasn't that he had a lethal amount of fentanyl, or it was a lethal combination of fentanyl and meth. And the way that the Chauvin's defense attorney words it kind of blows things up for him. So it doesn't really work. Whether or not the fentanyl or the meth were actually impacting him, like he had health issues and stuff. He's early to mid 40s guy. He had some, comorbidities, and he had tested positive for COVID-19 almost a month in advance. And I don't know if he was, non-symptomatic, or he was just like, fighting through it thanks to the virtues of, fentanyl and meth. But he was still positive when after he was dead. They tested him after he died. He was still shedding virus. So yeah, there could have been a lot of different. There are a lot of different things impacting his health. There are a lot of different things impacting lots of different people's health at the time they start to interact with the cops. One of the big contributors to impacting somebody's, survival rate is not having them laying prone on the ground on their rib cage with their arms tied behind their back while a almost 200-pound man kneels on them with his leg. That changes things, right? Especially if he does it for an extended period of time. Clearly, most of the evidence that was presented influenced the jury that way. And he's going to appeal, sure. I don't know that it's going to go anywhere.
because Floyd was a drug addict. He had a criminal history. He was passing bad money, and he had lethal levels of fentanyl, and he also had high levels.
So he was passing bad money, and there was these other things happening. He apparently had gotten into some fentanyl. He apparently had gotten into some meth. He's passing bad money. Kill him. Right, Darth? Kill him. He deserves to die. This is the thing that I always love about these guys, because they're like conservative and they're kind of anti-state, you know, pro-civil liberties, all this kind of stuff, until somebody does something like this, and then it's like, I don't care if the state drops all the hammer on them, you know, right? Just crush them with your jackboot if you can, because clearly they deserve it, you know. Oh, did the state, brand you with a scarlet A? Well, shoot them out of a cannon into the sun. That's sort of what Darth thinks, right? Like it's civil liberties for him, Nazi Germany for everyone else that he deems, deficient or inappropriate for society. Oh, this guy.
Levels of methamphetamine.
Yeah, but that's how we roll. But like, nobody deserves to die like that, man. Everybody.
Hey, who said? Wait a minute.
You said what, bro?
Who said when you say nobody deserves to die?
Oh, I think that was Flacco, whoever that guy's name is. Flacco. I think he's starting to stir up some shit here.
That way. What do you think was the cause of death?
Fentanyl overdose.
Okay.
The cause of death was Chauvin, according to the jury.
So who's responsible? Who's responsible for this dumbass, taking lethal quantities of fentanyl? Do you know there are police?
They weren't lethal quantities of fentanyl. He survived those quantities of fentanyl. He had trace amounts of those fentanyl. Fentanyl didn't kill him. I don't think Darth understands drug use.
Police officers that have died from touching fentanyl.
Oh yeah, bro. Have you ever overdosed?
Okay, so wait a minute.
No, listen,
Who said? Hey, bro, don't overtalk me.
Oh. All right, keep talking.
Now, Fentanyl Floyd died because he was a dumbass drug user.
Fentanyl Floyd died because a cop suffocated him, not because he was a quote dumbass drug user. Now, it's possible that given the enough time and drug usage, especially without protocols or care or any kind of alerts or anything, that George Floyd would have eventually died of a drug overdose. Happens quite a bit, especially with people with substance abuse issues. But it turns out that's not actually what happened here. So this idea of I kind of like to follow that argument to its extension, because Darth, I think, is implying something here. This guy basically was already dead, so it's okay to murder him, right? We can scientifically, whatever that means, prove that he was already about to OD. So it was okay that Chauvin suffocated him with his leg on the asphalt for over 10 minutes. Okay.
All right, bro. Have you ever overdosed though? Have you ever been through an overdose?
There was one incident where I almost had. Did you ask me a question?
Yeah, but you're saying.
Okay, look. When I'm answering the question, you shut your dumb mouth. Now, there was one time when I thought I had overdosed and I was about to call 911, but the manager of McDonald's assured me that the chocolate milkshake was just causing heartburn.
All right, so when you overdose, usually your lungs stop working. But what could being under a lot of stress makes it even worse and makes you die quicker.
Did Fentanyl Floyd? Did he have hypertension?
Listen, bro. Listen. He was resistant.
I asked you a question. Dodge another question. I'm going to kick you from the server. Did Fentanyl Floyd have hypertension?
Flacco asked a good question. Was this guy resisting arrest? He wasn't. He was actually kind of scared of getting into the cruiser. He wasn't resisting detention because he allowed the officers to handcuff him with his arms behind his back. This is a large dude. If he wanted to cause some trouble, he could have. And there's lots of video footage of him after having been handcuffed, sitting down next to a building or sitting next to a post or whatever, while they were engaging in their investigation and stuff. It wasn't until they tried to get him into the back of a cruiser that George Floyd kind of lost it, right? And the cops didn't really deal with that all that well. And that's from the second set of dash cam footage that was released later.
Give me a moment. What does that mean? Explain.
Did Floyd have underlying very serious?
Hey, Brett.
He had hypertension, problems
with
high blood pressure. He also had a very serious.
Oh yeah, he did. Wait.
I love this. He has a serious heart condition. He has high blood pressure. He's got fentanyl in him. He's got the meth in him. He's passing counterfeit drugs. It sounds like anybody in their right mind should just walk up to George Floyd and shoot him in the head.
Yeah.
Because he's just about to burst as it is. He's a tick about to pop, right?
At any point, he's going to just keel over and die.
Like
Might as well just finish him off.
this portrays such a fundamental misunderstanding of how law works or rights work or any of this other kind of stuff. Just the presumption of innocence. Darth has just completely surrendered that. It doesn't matter. Now that we know this stuff, we can apply it in retrospect, and then we could just like basically like feed him to pigs, right? Like, I mean, Darth is essentially like he's just acting like a fiend at this point, and I don't think he realizes it because his ego's on overdrive and his weird little like cesspool of cronies.
Right.
Wait, bro, you think I'm for or against him?
I didn't accuse you of anything.
I don't know, bro. You're talking to me like I'm with him, bro.
No, I'm talking to you because you've been interrupted.
Yo, hold on, I gotta get on my PC right quick, but hold on, my bad, never mind.
Yeah, so Fentanyl Floyd, that's a funny name. In conclusion, that's it.
I think it's very fitting.
That's basically it. Okay, so yeah, that guy kind of like, I mean, he attempts to kind of stand up to him and then gives him like the fentanyl Floyd thing, and that's it. That's where it goes. So that's about as woke on that issue as Darth is about to get. Now, I have heard Darth throw around some bigoted statements, some epithets here and there on some recordings, but I don't really need to get into that because the next video that I'm going to end up featuring is weirder yet. I'll stop this one.
Is the trans one?
It's not. The trans one, the newest one, the newest trans one. I thought I don't know what pronouns I think it was she.
Yeah, she.
She did a really good job of trying to like attempt to talk to him about the distinctions between sex and gender.
Right.
But he wasn't having it because he was spinning around in his high chair and slapping himself in the face. Because, obviously this trans woman, is not a woman and not a man. It's a trans robot sent from the future to destroy Darth's sense of masculinity.
The lack of.
Yeah. It was so weird because I thought that she was doing a really good job. She was doing a pretty good job. There were a couple of times he asked some fairly cockeyed questions about things. And then, I don't know, it didn't go well. Hang on, I'm just going to be moving through. I apologize to all viewers if you hear some background noise and stuff. I got a pot of soup on that I got to check. I'm going to turn down.
Don't worry, Jay does this all the time.
I know, yeah, it's usually like his dogs or something. Yeah, somebody's like, oh, let's see here. Yeah, I still had this thing on too. I'm making a kind of weird. Jay tipped me off to a weird recipe, some of his strange herbalism, and I kind of took it to a weird extreme, so should be good. Turn that off. But yeah, the next one is, and I don't know, Red Fang, if you'd seen this one, the one where he's trying to give advice to another Christian. He's not arguing with an atheist, which is one of the things I thought was really interesting about this one.
I think I might have seen this one.
So it's a younger guy who is a Christian and is active in his church. Mm-hmm. And his issue is that he's a little concerned that his time at church is starting to have a negative effect on other aspects of his life.
Oh yeah.
You know which one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
This one's good. So I try to wind it back.
This is Gavin with Matt Bond.
So I'm trying. God, I'm trying to. I've wound this one back. I think he's asked a few questions already. Most of them have been pretty generic, like, I'm volunteering X number of hours. I just feel like I'm spending way too much time. This kind of stuff. And
yeah, an hour at church is wasting too much time.
So anyway, he gets into this, and this is what he starts to do. So let's share this out. I don't know why all my screens are really slow. Okay. Darth tells Christian to leave his church because drums. What's funny about this is I mean, there's the initial impact of like what he initially tells this kid, but then when he goes into the background to justify why he thinks that this is relevant to what's happening, it kind of loses its shit. So, and this was something that I like. Again, we didn't get into this when I was talking with Knock on his or my stream over the weekend. So I kind of wanted to point this one out, mostly because I'm trying to save some of these other videos for some invites that I'm trying to save for later. So anyway, let's share this out. Let's play this one.
I don't think it's very much. How do I word that?
Personal growth.
Because I'm hanging around people that are, because I'm pretty up there with my church. I have meetings, very frequent meetings with our worship leader.
This is perfect.
And our head pastor.
So yeah, I'm going to pause it right here. When I unpause it, listen very carefully after I unpause it to the next status, the next job description that he mentions. I also want to. I'll highlight this one right now. Jefferson, you are prevaricating. This is what atheists do. You're damn right it is. DH. Come at me, bro. Anyway, this particular part that he starts, this kid starts talking about my soul bleeds. He's the one that's asking Darth Dawkins for advice on how to deal with this. And so listen to this next job description that he mentions from his church that he's working with. He's kind of in the upper echelon of this church, and he's involved with a lot of its day-to-day functions.
And I hang around them.
The worship leader. Okay,
I'm gonna bounce that back because that actually skipped it.
And my church. I have meetings, very frequent meetings with our worship leader and our head pastors, and I hang around them.
The worship leader. Okay, is there a band in your church?
Yes, there is. I am a part of it.
Good. Leave it.
No, I will not. I'm sorry.
Okay, good. Then you're going to have problems. Any church that would have a band is not a church that you should attend.
Why is that? Please explain.
Because if it has a band, it means that they're using sensual music. Okay?
No.
Sensual music. That's sensual music, right? Oh, wait. There he is. Is it connecting for you? Red, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, there we go. All right. And I noticed you kind of. Wow. Okay. Yeah. There's no image coming up for you, so I kind of wonder. Okay. I'm gonna feature this one real quick. I want everyone in the room to see how at Jefferson Spanchcock is a deceitful liar who totally ignored my first comment. I didn't ignore it. I featured it. When you said I was prevaricating, I didn't know what I was prevaricating about. and I'm not ignoring you. I appreciate this side of Josh. He's trying to become the best troll he can be so he can understand the other side. Let's see. Tyler West says, yeah, this is pretty good. This is a pretty good comment. That's where I go to hear sensual music. Church. I'm going to bring this guy in. I have not met this man before, so but his name has come up when I've talked about Darth. Hello, Sydney Winston. What's going on?
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
Doing well. So it's nice to meet you. I've heard your name around a few times.
Nice to meet you too.
I apologize if I might be stepping on your toes, getting into the Darth Dawkins, like, you know.
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay. Oh, we lost Red Fang again. Red Fang, come back.
I have seen this one, or heard this one, I should say, and it's pretty creepy.
It gets really weird because when he starts getting into, well, I'm just going to play it and let others decide for themselves. So yeah, let's just do that, and hopefully Red Fang can come back. Why so? When I add you to stream, you disappear. Okay, there you go. There is something really weird going on with StreamYard right now. Welcome back.
No, it's me. It's me.
Are you joining on your phone?
I'm yeah, and
Okay.
I'm driving, so I'm hitting dead spots, so I'm almost home.
Oh, okay. Okay. No worries. Okay. Digital Hamarami says, you see, he is deliberately obfuscating, intentionally lying, pretending to know about my first comment. Typical atheist tactics. That's good. Yeah. Actually,
That was a good one.
I think that Dr. Josh has like perfectly captured what we call the full Gavin.
Yeah. Now
It's not a
question is he wearing pants?
Hopefully, yeah. But even if he's not, yeah. I mean, really, if he's really getting into character, if he's a method actor, yeah, then he's got to be pantsless. So- all right, here we go.
Using music with
That's
some,
not.
they're using.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
really? So is there a drum set in your church?
Well, syncopated music.
There is.
Okay. Are they using what we?
Okay,
would,
I didn't catch that before, but did you hear Antonio there? That's 35-year-old virgin. He was like syncopated music. Blah, blah. So he's like Jungle Jargon Jr. I don't know what his issue is. He starts talking like he immediately gets into syncopated music, which means he either knows about this, like he's got a similar gripe because the quote unquote the sensual music is a naughty thing. And keep an eye, he's a 35-year-old virgin, right? So he's not supposed to be like doing anything, which for I believe 35-year-old virgin, quote unquote, means he can't be touching himself, which means each testicle now has grown larger than the other. He's just, they're just quivering, waiting to explode at this point. Ugh, I just grossed myself out. Ugh, fuck. But anyway, that guy's got some real issues. What I think is more likely is that he hangs around Darth Dawkins a lot on these Discord channels, and they talk about quote unquote the dangers of syncopation because it sounds like masturbation. And here we are. So Darth is trying to impart this knowledge onto my soul blades because my soul blades apparently he's attending a church that has allowed too many worldly influences inside. Doubting Thomas, how are you doing?
Hello.
He's on his phone.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
you.
You kind of sound like you're talking through like a traffic cone, but I mean you're there.
He's got a nice CB radio going on.
I'm in the middle of Montana.
I'm sorry.
I was going to ask you, are you talking to us on CB radio? And now that you've said Montana, the answer is yes to both. So yeah, all right.
Yeah, 10-4.
All right, eastbound and down, good buddy.
we call syncopated music or rock music?
No.
Then why do they call it a band?
It's not. They don't.
A band doesn't have to play music that has a syncopated rhythm to it.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think Darth Dawkins knows what syncopation really is.
He does start getting into a definitional fight with this kid over what syncopation means. And I think he actually technically gets it right. But we'll go forward.
They don't call it a band. They call it a worship team.
Worship team?
But you see, okay, listen to me. Listen, I'm too old for this, okay? I have to go in a minute.
Okay.
I will be
I'm too old for this. I totally agree.
Yeah.
back. I don't mind you disagreeing, and if I disagree with you, it's nothing personal. I think you're a nice guy. I'm just, You're asking me my opinion, I'm giving it to you, okay? So if I make a criticism, it's nothing personal. I ask you, do they have a band? Okay? To me, this is not, we have somebody on the organ, we have somebody on the piano, so that there's some light musical accompanying to help carry people singing, okay, as just having people sing a cappella. Before you were even born, okay, going back to the 1970s, there was a change in certain American evangelical churches. There was a slow increase, and then by the time we reached like the 90s, an influx of rock and roll music flooded the church in order to attract warm bodies from the church growth movement. Okay? It's just a sign of the times of worldliness coming into the church. Okay?
Oh, they're trying to get to younger audience.
Our culture is so saturated.
Yeah, this gets weird. He starts arguing a bunch of weird stuff. I am waiting for an answer to my original question, Jefferson Spatchcock. I don't mind you disagreeing, but I will yell if you do. Just want to highlight that one. That one's those. Yeah, let me go back up. Let me take a look.
Yeah, you better find that original question.
Yeah, I have technically I have dodged it. Let me find out. Let me see this. Let's see here. I'll hide this one. I'll highlight his original one. I'll see if I can answer it in any kind of like reasonable way. Let's see. Are you an atheist? Yes. If so, why is it that a creator God does not exist? Why is it that it doesn't? Because I think that a creator God concept is invented, isn't real, and is largely a projection of people anthropomorphizing nature around them. What is your ultimate concrete particulars, instantiation, possible impossibilities? Don't overtalk me. Yeah, at that point, yeah. Now we're done. Now we're done. Yeah, that last question is like, yeah. That's when you go back. That's when you've revealed that you're still in cage stage Calvinism. Somebody needs to pull you back into your pen.
How is syncopation in any way sensual?
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
Do you know what syncopation is?
Yeah, it's just off. It's timings on an offbeat. Yeah,
it's okay. In a 4-beat, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's called the down. It's called the down. And if you go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and all the ands are the up. So if you play a note on the up and not the down, that's called a syncopated note. That's all it is.
Yeah, and the weird thing about this is like if you were to Google like syncopation as rhythm, like as he's talking about this, he starts getting into how drums are bad, right? Because of the potential for syncopation. Syncopated rhythm can occur with a piano.
Of course.
Like this doesn't make any sense, but he continues to push this issue with My Soul Bleeds as if he's going to like convince this kid like, oh, you got to get out of there. What you need to do is get yourself into a crusty old folk. It's just a pipe organ, as if a pipe organ, can't have maybe it can't have a syncopated rhythm. I'm not sure how that works with a pipe organ, but anyway, I'll just keep playing this because he starts getting into a history lesson for My Soul Bleeds, and that's where things get a little questionable.
With syncopation and rock music, they no longer recognize the sensual nature of syncopation. Okay. Do you know what syncopation is?
Yes, I do.
What is syncopation?
Well, in music theory, it's much more upbeat.
Syncopation is a repetitive, monotonous beat, usually a backbeat, which is opposite the heartbeat. Okay.
Yes.
That's why it's integral.
That's not actually what a syncopated beat is.
Absolutely not.
That's not the definition of syncopation. So he doesn't understand music theory, or at the very least, doesn't even understand rhythm theory. So that's interesting. So,
I'm shocked that he pretends that he does, though.
Hey, but I now know Darth Dawkins. Basically, his superhero weakness. Bongos.
Yeah, bongos will do it. They'll do it every time.
Can play on a desk too if you want. just start doing a drum beat on your legs.
Right, exactly.
Freak the fuck out. The devil.
So let's push forward because I want to get into it. I want to get into this point.
Goal to what is called rock music. Okay. Before the modern era in the 70s, not even apostate churches would bring in sensual music because it was seen for what it was: sensual and sexual in nature. Okay.
He hasn't defined what those two things are. He hasn't actually given any kind of historical reference for whether or not those things were established in any kind of cultural context or even a theological context, and hasn't actually defined which churches would be less inclined to deal with that and ones that would be maybe blindsided by it or just ignorant to it, or the other ones that would actually gravitate towards it and actually think that it's a beneficial thing. Like what he's talking about here is bullshit. This is
Absolute
pure
bullshit.
Yeah, it's complete bullshit.
Good job.
What a shocker.
June Cleaver. June Cleaver was called for Darth Dawkins, and she says for him to bring his ideology back.
Marty Cameo said, Marty Cameo's dropping the hammer. Digital Hammer Abbey, if you don't stop, I will kick you from the server. Good for you, Marty. Get rid of Hammurabi has been a plague on my channel for years.
Well, she asked, she goes, Mods, is there anything we can do about this troll? Laugh out loud. I said, that troll has a fucking wrench.
Does anybody know who Grimorous Treon is?
Nope.
No clue.
Who?
I don't. He was trying to. He or she was trying to jump in, but it wasn't working. So, the device wasn't connected.
You got two crazy Christians in the side chat there. You got Saint Tommy and Artangelo, two nutcases.
I was going to say, Mathig is saying you can turn off the branding at the bottom, the StreamYard live show thing. I'm guessing that's what Mathig's talking about. I did notice that was new. I don't know actually how to get rid of that other than to, because when I go to the...
It's probably...
It's not important. I'll leave it until later. Mathig, share with me later. Doubting Thomas, still in Montana. Let's listen to this. He's going to sound like he's coming from like a Soviet radio station. I'm like Antarctica. Hey, DT.
Radio Free Moscow.
Yes. You're almost mono. This is great.
I don't know. I'm having a hard time staying connected. I got spotty service. I got.
Yeah, you said you were in Montana.
You're driving through Montana.
He's driving through Montana. His internet's on dial-up.
Somebody didn't get Verizon. Somebody didn't get Verizon before they moved.
All right, so let me play the rest of this because this is culminating in something pretty good, I think. Anyway,
they began and the popularity of rock and roll music. They began incorporating it. Okay, we should not be using music which conveys sexuality or sensuality, and join that with so-called biblical lyrics. It's inappropriate.
It's inappropriate.
What are you drinking? Drinking some mud.
What the hell is this?
Do people ever give you a hard time about?
So, I mean, wait a minute. Imagine you went to a funeral and they started playing march music from John Philip Sousa.
So, okay, the sexiest music that Darth can come up with is John Philip Sousa, apparently. Not only that, but like, let's say, like, I've been to funerals where they played pop music. Doubting Thomas, there's some. Wait, there were two Doubting Thomases.
He's being abducted as we speak.
I think he is. Yeah. Oh, and Red Fang's coming back. All right, here we go.
Shit.
I don't think
DT for Montana, you're doing great, but for like 21st century society, it's not going to hold together.
Just driving along.
Let us know when you hit Nebraska, the height of civilization. Sorry.
I don't think I've ever been to Nebraska.
Oh, don't go. If you can drive around it, do that.
Don't go. What's on the other side of Montana? I don't even know that. Why?
Aren't you heading towards the Dakotas?
South Dakota. Ought to be way better internet.
I like how this chat has now become like, can someone find Doubting Thomas before he freezes to death?
Yeah. But the last time I got gassed, it was cold out. I had to put my fucking coat on.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're in the frozen north.
Fucking bullshit.
It's 80 where I am in Canada's Florida. It's 81.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah, it was like 70 when I left Washington.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Well, if you're connected now, I'm going to bring Red Fang back in. If you're connected now, I'm gonna keep playing this video. Can you still hear us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Stars and Stripes Forever. You would say, wait a minute, this is inappropriate. So at best, the use of rock and roll styles of music, at best, is inappropriate for churches. Okay?
By whose
And the reason
standard?
why churches all across America are using it, it's because of much of the church. Is your church a charismatic church, Pentecostal?
No.
Okay.
Or non-denominational.
Okay. Does your church, have you ever heard the name Bill Hybels or Rick Warren?
I have not.
Okay.
Thank God. Awesome.
Usually when churches start incorporating drums and a band, it's usually symptomatic of a far greater problem, and that is worldliness creeping in. And so what they're doing is they're trying to bring in a certain genre of music in order to attract warm bodies to come and participate.
Hey, Joe.
This is a big problem because it will
This starts getting creepy. I just want to play this out a little bit longer. There's a lot to object to what he's talking about, but most of it is just like kind of so obviously ignorant that you don't really need to comment on it. It's just like that old guy with the lemon drink on the porch, just like, lamenting that, the times are the way they are. So let's just play this a little bit on, because he starts actually dropping some nuggets here that he thinks are pearls, and they are straight up flaming pig shit. It's great.
facilitate apostasy far more rapidly at a local church than it would have taken otherwise, where you didn't have that. Because then you're going to attract people who want to listen to sensual music and call it worship. It's not worship. Okay.
Amen.
Wait,
listen to me. I am not saying to you that drums in and of themselves are evil. But drums, when they
keep that in mind, drums in and of themselves are not evil. Yeah, go ahead.
So apparently he's never watched Praise's intro.
Well, I mean, that is such white bread pop music that maybe he did. I mean, I don't think there is a syncopated beat in that thing. It's all just like on the ones, like click, click, click. But anyway, he says that he doesn't have anything against drums.
No,
Listen
it's the
to where
drumsticks that are evil, not drums.
Oh yeah, it might be. Yep, good. That's a good point. Good looking out, Sydney. But here we go.
They are played a certain way.
Played in a certain way.
Cultic in nature, and it can convey sexuality.
Hang on, what?
Is that Doubting Thomas's mic that I'm hearing breaking?
It might be. I'm going to mute you, DT. Well, not you, Jay. I'm saying it. Sorry, the orientation just changed. Marty's coming in. Hey, Marty, how's it going?
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm all right.
Thank you for doing battle with that horrible theist troll Digital Hammurabi.
Hey, it's the least I can do.
Yeah.
When I come into rooms, I don't like people fucking with my friends. So if you're a troll, you're gonna come in here and fuck my friends, I'm gonna kick some ass.
Yeah, it's literally the least that you can do, fighting a fake theist troll.
That's Josh rules. I love him so much. He's the fucking best.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. I like this new mode that he's trying to get into himself, because he'll show up in one of my streams or my brother's and just be like, "How do you know that?"
I'm gonna warn him about the slippery slope that is that kind of trolling. Next thing you know, you sit next to Darth Dawkins on his porch, having the Kool-Aid.
You don't have the clouds.
Yeah, sipping a lemon drink, questioning reality, everything skeptical. What the fuck ever?
I got a question. Was Darth Dawkins listening to syncopated music before he went and committed adultery on his wife?
That's probably what caused him to do
Oh,
that.
snap.
Is what is Sydney, the syncopated music. It's sensual, and that's what probably made him go out and commit adultery.
Mhm.
What a fucking asshole. Learn some fucking music theory, you douche.
Do you think the guy that he's making love with enjoyed the music?
There was so much squealing going on, you couldn't tell.
All right.
We did things with those drumsticks that you can only imagine.
Well, wait until you hear what Darth Dawkins believes.
Oh
about
God,
this.
drum kits. Drum kits are bad. Everybody, don't have a drum kit. They're bad.
Sexuality and sensuality. Why do you think it is Hollywood pays composers unimaginable amounts of money, great composers, to compose specific types of music for movies? Because the music conveys certain mental states, emotions, and physical dispositions. If we think that music cannot be constructed along with certain type of drum patterns to convey sexuality and sensuality, then we're an ostrich with our head in the sand. Okay. Syncopation is a technique that is all of this human history that has been used by witch doctors and medicine men and sorcerers to prime the mind to be open to the spirit world. Okay. And I have to go, but I'm just telling you, you may love your church, okay? And I'm sorry to say this, but I personally, as a Bible believing Christian, would never remain in a church if they used syncopation or rock music, because it's an absolute.
We don't play rock music as much as other churches do. We play more like worshipy songs, like very slow. Not right now.
Why is there a need? Why is there a need for a drum set?
To
let me explain something to you. Get a copy of a book called The Secret Power of Music. Okay.
Oh my God.
It's a secular book. Read that. Look into a book's public.
Okay, so he says this is a quote unquote secular book, The Secret Power of Music. Watch where he goes with this.
That detail the history of rock music in the United States, written by rock and roll performers themselves. See what they say about the origin of rock music. Okay.
Okay.
Do you know the term rock and roll? Do you know where that came from?
I was born with rock and roll.
That's to do with activities in the back of a car, dude.
The music was called rock and roll because the musical patterns were reflective of having sexual intercourse in the backseat of a car.
Okay. I'm going to pause it there because I'm going to give you the one. All right. You get that one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Wow.
It gets weirder. It gets like that's the kind of thing that you'd hear from like somebody's great grandparent, right? Like, they're sipping that lemon drinking. Do you know why they call it rock and roll, right? Because that's what hips be doing when intercoursing. Like, okay.
He reminds me of the lady in the movie of in the movie Field of Dreams. Well, you know why so and so stopped writing? Because he masturbates.
Because he masturbates. Yeah, clearly. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
It was called rock and roll. Okay. Rock music or the type of syncopation. You can use drums in music and not have it sexual or sensual. Okay. For example, we have march music. Okay.
My name is Daisy Robinson. As a
this
scientist,
is why I'm probably going to have to upgrade my YouTube.
This is why I'm glad I have YouTube Red.
The kind of music known as rock music, you know where it came from? It came from the South. And then it spread throughout the culture. Okay. And where in the South? Okay. Where is the birthplace of rock music, which is sexual and sensual music? The answer is Louisiana.
The blues.
Okay? That's the birthplace of it. Well, how did that happen? Because Louisiana was the only state in the Union that did not ban slaves from using drums. Okay. Right?
Okay.
Why did they use drums? Because it's a holdover from.
There you go. So rock and roll music leaked into the country because Louisiana slave owners didn't beat the music out of their slaves.
Okay.
According to Darth Dawkins.
So I guess he's never heard of the blues or gospel, because back in the day, gospel had rock and roll elements in it. So he's never heard of the blues. He's never heard of boogie woogie. He's never heard of doo-wop. That's where fucking rock and roll came from. Not Louisiana slaves. What a douche. Is he serious?
He's serious.
God.
He's serious.
Oh,
right?
he's serious.
those slaves with their pagan influences were let in here, and it was in Louisiana where the slave owners didn't beat that culture out of them.
Yeah,
They
didn't
allowed
ban
them
those
to play
drums.
their drums, and that ended up filtering out into the culture. And it just, and that's what he said before. It's so saturated American culture that we just can't get away from its sinful influence. Like, I mean, when people talk like this, I can see them gripping their genitals. Like, I can just, like, it's fucking crazy how batshit this whole thing is. It's weird. And yet he is telling this to a fellow Christian. He's telling this kid to leave his church because drums are bad because Louisiana slaves.
Yeah, that's
what this
literally what he's
all rolled
saying.
back to.
Yeah, he's like, drum kit bad. Like if that kid would have been like, no, there's no drum kit, he would have been like, okay.
But slaves are
drums
good.
bad.
Slavery is good. Christianity supports that.
Slavery is good, drum kit bad.
Yeah,
basically what you're saying.
Slavery is great as long as you make sure that your slaves don't bring any of their local traditions and culture into the mix.
Yeah,
You want to keep that shit stum.
Those drums.
So there's not much left of this. I'm going to play the last bit of this. So
their occult practices from the continent of Africa.
Oh,
look at the difference.
There it is. They brought their occult practices from the continent of Africa.
Yeah, drum kits.
He's one of these dark continent motherfuckers too. Like this Darth Dawkins is trafficking in so much antiquated bullshit. Like his head is full of so much crap. It's hilarious.
If what they believed in Africa is a cult, then Christianity is also a cult.
Right, but it's fine that it came from that small area of the Levant, right? That's okay. But the fact that any of these drum beats came from an entire fucking continent where supposedly no Christ ever happened, even though when someone argues that with somebody like Jesus is Lord, he talks about how Christian Ethiopia was and how Christian all these other different countries in Northern Africa were. It's just brilliant. It's brilliant. So here we go.
The way drums are used in a symphonic piece. Okay, or even let's say in a symphonic piece of Handel's Messiah, the drums are used in an entirely different way than they would be in rock and roll. Look at the behavior of people when we have strong syncopations in crowds, the way people behave, as opposed to the way people behave, the way drums are used in symphonic pieces. Okay, listen, I gotta go. Right?
You can have syncopation in symphonic pieces, you dumb shit. You can have syncopation in symphonic pieces without drums, you ignorant motherfucker.
Yeah, drums are not the only way to drive rhythm in music. There's other ways. That's why there's rhythm guitar. There's a rhythm guitar in a lot of bands.
Some bands
also drive a rhythm. So does a piano. You can fucking drive a rhythm with a tambourine, for fuck's sake. Like, learn something. For somebody who's like, what, in his 60s, who doesn't know fucking... I mean, wow. You think you've been around long enough to know a little bit about rock and roll. Fuck, I'm only 40-something, and I know more rock and roll than he does.
Well, Darth has been avoiding rock and roll for years because he's afraid that it would make his penis hard and therefore, like, prevent him from getting into heaven, apparently. That's sensual music. That's sensual music.
I wonder if, that's a good point. That I don't know, I think it might have been Sydney. I wonder if he blames rock and roll music for him cheating on his wife, and then he became a Christian and saw how sinful it was, and that might be why rock music or drums, not even just rock music, drum kits have all this fire from him now.
And that's the weird thing to me is, like, if you're trying to point out, like, I mean, I don't know, like depending on the music that you're into, like, you know, I hate to use this term, but like if you're capable of maintaining 3 or 4 sets of time on a drum set, that's pretty fucking based, right? Like, that's pretty impressive. And the idea that this person can do that apparently makes them an agent of Satan.
Oh my God.
Right? Like, according to him, because if it's not just like in a one-time kind of click, 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 click kind of timing, it doesn't seem to make much sense. I do want to point out, let's see, Gustavus Mercurius, I smell soy in this vid. If you do, it's because of the soy sauce that I used to cook my soup with, which is actually now ready to serve. So I'll be leaving here pretty soon to enjoy that. Jay says, click the like, you inconsiderate cowards hiding in the live chat. Most of those people, I think, might actually be Darth supporters, which might be why my viewership is kind of high. Or it's just people anticipating that Otangelo will bring Darth towards me.
Yeah, let me add Darth. I'll make him leave.
I don't doubt that. I totally
We
agree.
don't want him to leave. Everybody loves a dumpster fire. We don't want him to leave.
Yeah.
It'll be a dumpster for fire before he leaves.
Does Otangelo like the drums?
Otangelo, you currently live in Brazil. Are you okay with a syncopated rhythm? Because as far as I know, isn't syncopated rhythm kind of the basis of bossa nova?
Oh my god!
Which is one of the best
if
things.
they hadn't invented back seats in cars, then there
There
wouldn't
would be
be
no
a
rock and
problem.
roll. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Wow. Oh my god. Wow. He actually.
Is that Peter?
He said, "Otangelo likes drums." Okay. Then Otangelo, you might want to
Otangelo,
put some musical knowledge on your friend Darth. That drums are not the only way to drive rhythm in a song. Any instrument can drive a rhythm. So a drum kit is not.
A bass guitar will do that.
Yeah, exactly. A drum kit is not needed to make a song a rock and roll song or to drive rhythm. So just let him know that, and tell him that a pagan who told you that.
And ask him what the first musical instrument was.
Yeah, really.
A couple of coconuts.
Well, it was the drum, basically.
Yeah, percussion. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
stacked on a fire.
Yeah,
Jay, of course, has to bring up the skin flute. Don't bring that up. Don't bring that up. That's how you get banned from the Reformation Discord server, right there, making comments like that. I know, because I did.
Could you give me 5 minutes? Gotta wrestle with my flesh.
I gotta wrestle with my flesh. I gotta admit, I didn't actually make anything that controversial. I made no comments like that. Darth Dawkins asked me if he thought I was being abusive, and I was like, "Yeah, you are, because of the tone of your voice and the content of your conversation. You're banned."
So when Darth Dawkins was beating his wife, was he just beating her on the downbeat and missing the upbeat?
It was a consistent click, click, click. Yeah, it gave her plenty of time to escape. That's why he thought it was okay.
Right. It wasn't a syncopated rhythm. That's why he was.
Nothing unpredictable is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a routine beating from your godly husband, federated homestead.
Everybody knows that a spousal beating out of rhythm is just a good way for that spouse to end up in the hospital. It's just all there is to it. There's no excuse. No excuse. It has to be in time.
I heard him actually admit that he was accused of domestic abuse.
Well, that's he was accused of it because he committed it.
Right. No, I kind of think that he definitely seems like the type, but he had actually admitted in the conversation that I heard while he was on his Discord server. He was like, "Yeah, I was accused of that," but he didn't say what happened with the accusation. I'm like, "Yeah, I was accused of domestic abuse." Like, you were accused of domestic abuse by the abused, you dipshit. Like, your wife accused you of beating her. Oh, you goofy bastard. Like, I've been accused of things I'm not guilty of at all. Like, oh, did you throw that punch in the name of Jesus? Like, what the fuck? Like, he's a nutcase.
He not only abused his wife, he abused his young children.
Yeah, supposedly. Yeah. I still haven't seen verification of that, but that was the first time I saw verification that he acknowledged that domestic assault allegations had been leveled at him. Up until then, I had heard things like he's never even been accused of domestic domestic abuse.
Officially
Never even
happened. Were they officially leveled against him, or
Yeah,
is
well,
this
his
just
son David has confirmed it.
The way he said it, he was like he was accused of domestic assault. But that's different than what I'd heard like a couple years ago, where he had said that people had talked about like there were these rumors that he had done these things, and he just denied them entirely. He hadn't even been accused of domestic assault. Now he's admitting that the allegations, at least, were made. So that's progress of a kind, I guess. We wait another 5-6 years, and maybe they'll be like, "Yeah, I punched my wife, but it was in the name of Christ."
Hey, Otangelo says, why are you guys commenting on personal affairs of DD? Is his personal problem your problem? Here's why. When you're gonna commit like domestic abuse, like beat your wives and cheat on your wives and all that, and you're gonna turn around and tell people that they're not moral and how terrible they are and act a fucking fool and be a douchebag to everybody because they don't have the same religion as you, that person go fuck themselves. When you have a rap sheet that includes violence against your wife, you don't have a leg to stand on anymore.
Well, just listen to the way he acts on on the internet and the way he treats people.
Yeah, he treats people like shit. So that's why we're fucking trashing. That's why we're trashing him the way we're trashing him.
He even treated Otangelo like shit.
Yeah, he has.
He treats everybody. When I've seen, he treats everybody like shit. That fucking kid was a Christian. And he was treating that kid like shit.
Well,
you kidding?
Did any of you guys listen to when Orga from he normally frequents Speed of Sound's channel? He had a conversation on Praise's channel with Darth Dawkins, and Darth Dawkins was basically doing where he justified why he was insulting him. Like, you deserve the insults that I'm giving you. You deserve this verbal abuse because it's you, because you're giving me what you're telling me is allowing me to abuse you. That is telltale abusive behavior. When you start blaming the person that you are verbally or physically abusing, you deserve it because of who you are or because of what you said.
Yeah, that he's abusive as a human being. Quote, human being. He's an abusive. Well, I'll call him a person. He's an abusive person in general. So he deserves all the ire that he gets.
I've attempted to listen to him because I've gotten into the atheist helpline thing on the Reformation Discord server. So I haven't actually engaged him on that. I just jump in. I usually mute my mic and I kind of hang out in the chat. And so I usually have conversations with some of the people in there. Some of them are actually quite funny. I've run into a few people. Actually, that Grimorous Trion was a user that was trying to jump on, and I apologize to him for whatever reason. It wouldn't authenticate your mic or whatever to bring you on, so that wasn't me like kicking you out. But some of them I've talked to have been pretty interesting. Some of them have been absolutely some of the worst people that I've ever talked to. Like, and by worst I mean like the most boring. The first like 48 hours ago, I listened to him talking to somebody who was like listening to basically would ask him a question and do exactly. I thought it was interesting because in both cases, today and yesterday, in both situations, these individuals did precisely what Otangelo told me that I should do. Go into the chat and ask Darth questions and then just let him talk. Let him explain everything out, right? So both these guys did this. And this guy just kept talking. At one point, I timed it at 14 minutes. Darth kept talking straight for 14 minutes at this guy. And this guy was like, oh, sorry, I wanted to ask you this question, but I kind of lost my place in my notes. So this guy was taking notes on him. So I'm just like, okay, so are you taking notes on this guy because he's like a sage that you found at the top of a mountain, but instead you found him in social media? Or is it like, I'm here studying a rare evolution of a kind of social network species that is a Darth Dawkins, and I'm observing him in the wild, and I want to see what he does when I ask him questions. I'm just going to keep writing down his ramblings. Like I couldn't tell exactly which way these guys were going, but when given enough rope, he will talk forever. At one point I was listening to him on during lunch today, and I started to fall asleep. He just kept talking about the necessity of God and why atheists don't have a foundation, and because the foundation of God proves atheists don't have a foundation. That's why God is the foundation, and that's why atheists can't do anything. Just just over and over and over. I was like, oh my God, this went on for like 12, 15 minutes. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? It's absolute nonsense. And then he goes right back into it. And any of his weird simps that are on there, if somebody jumps in and tries to challenge him, they do the exact same thing. But on what grounds do you have to challenge the great Darth Dawkins? Well, here's one grounds that you can have: the fact that that guy is talking to you from the grounds of basically Saturday morning cartoons. He has invented this status, right, of philosophical supremacy that is beyond anything that Van Til came up with. It's even beyond what Greg Bonson mutated things into. And Van Til didn't like what Greg Bonson did. Van Til basically established the pre-sup argument as a way to kind of influence the Christian worldview to a lot of external critiques. You have to assume Christ in the rationalizations and the reasons that you do things. That was Van Til's take on it. Bonson starts coming around and was like, well, not only that, but why bother with multiple or opposing worldviews? You just expand the Christian worldview to be the only coherent, correct one, and then you challenge anyone outside the Christian worldview to prove themselves correct. Assume you're right, and then demand that they defend themselves because they're guilty by default. It's a fantastic way of like being a complete and total douchebag. That's what he's doing. And his simps have completely internalized it. And that's all they talk about on that fucking server. And it is boring. If anything, if I had a recommendation to give to Tom Rabbit, it would be this. Focus on his hangers-on. Focus on Tone Loc, or a 35-year-old version. Focus on Parakeet. Focus on some of these other Goombas, right? Focus on them when they get an opportunity to try to like stretch their wings and try to, strut their stuff a little bit. Try to point them out and then have some people like clip their fucking wings. Isolate Darth and then show people how boring he is. If someone were to play the 14 or 15-minute conversation, and it wasn't a conversation, the monologue he had with this other guy on the Reformation server, no one would give a shit about Darth Dawkins.
See, and Tangela, we don't listen to him. We laugh at him because how stupid he is.
Yeah.
Tangela, what I'm bringing to you is something new. I didn't realize that Didi was this much of a bore. I'd only ever heard of him when he was attacking me or attacking other atheists in other conversations. Most of his conversations don't last that long. On par, I think, at most they usually last anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, and usually he's losing his goddamn mind and largely talking about how he's been treated the entire time, how people are interrupting him, right? But for the most part, anybody that gets up in his face, if he's pre-categorized them as being a non-believer, he develops a tone, and then he starts going after them, and he will usually check them within 5 to 6 minutes. Probably on average 8 minutes is what most people get from this guy. That's actually kind of exciting for most viewers. But if I were to take your advice, Otangelo, and ask him a question and let him just spew it out, and then just be sweet and nice, and then ask him some follow-ups that weren't real catchy or anything, I get to listen to anywhere from 45 to 90 minutes of nonsense.
And Tangelo, atheism is not a worldview. The Christians that think that, they're the idiots.
I would like to, thanks for bringing that up, because Red Fang said that a worldview without God is absurd.
No, I said sad.
Oh, huh?
I said if you need God, you live a sad life.
No, he said it was absurd.
Oh,
yeah. He wrote absurd, and I would like to point out that if you're an atheist in the sense that you believe gods do not exist, your worldview very much includes gods in the sense that you believe those things do not exist.
Yeah. It's one of the things that I tried pointing out to one of his believers because they were trying to point out, like, well, how do you understand what knowledge is? I'm like, well, does your God know what knowledge is? No, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, how does a God that made everything define anything and everything that it made as something that it knows?
That's saying the Christian God Yahweh didn't do that stuff. Elohim did all that stuff. And
oh, well, yeah, if you want to get real
Yahweh took the credit.
Elohim is plural. That means gods. Not so. There's a problem there already.
But Intangelo doesn't know the history of Yahweh, so.
But
which he's backstage right now.
Oh.
I think all Christians are absolutely hypocritical in the fact that none of them have studied the scriptures in the original language. Unlike the Jews who studied Torah in the original Hebrew, none of the Christians that I've ever met on the internet here have ever studied the scriptures in the original Greek, which is the only way, if you really want to be serious about it, the only way you can have the knowledge of what it really says, without having to interpret or translate.
It's not even that either. It's the fact that there are discrepancies between Koine Greek and ancient Hebrew, and so much of what influenced the New Testament writers would have been the Septuagint, which would have been the early translation of the Old Testament into Greek, into Koine Greek.
Exactly.
And they just sort of discount that, which is weird because the Protestant tradition, they wanted to go back to that. They didn't want to rely on the Latin Vulgate. They didn't want to rely on the authority of the church. They wanted to get right back into, let's find out what the Bible said in those original languages. And then that was the beginning kind of like sort of the Protestant critical theory kind of, translational research kind of tradition that occurred.
I agree.
And most of these guys who actually kind of come out of denominations from that tradition, they're bemoaning it. Like, yeah, I don't want to deal with that.
Okay, guys, I disagree as well.
Well, you can take Artangelo, you can take St. Tommy, and you could take Gary Milne, and neither of them have read their Bible in the original Greek or whatever the original language. Not one of them. So all of them have only read it in some form of translation into English. Right, Artangelo?
Right.
Well, you guys can criticize Darth, and I agree with many things which I think are not a good approach, which he's adopting. He talks too much. He doesn't let the other side to make a case, interrupts constantly. And his personal behavior also at other channels when he goes in, he thinks that he can also there have a monologue, and I called him out on this. All this I agree with. But when it comes to actually, can I finish, please? When it comes actually to what he says in regards of theism and that the arguments which he makes, I want to see actually one atheist refute what he says, and I've not seen that.
There has been.
You have, Tangelo. He just doesn't allow them to speak.
And I kind of want to bring this up because there have been plenty of times when people have refuted it from a variety of different perspectives. One of the best refutations for it is that he is defining a God into an existence and then basically stating that it can't be refuted by virtue of its existence, and then demanding a refutation for something that by definition cannot be refuted. That's dishonest at the jump.
Bullshit. That's just
that is what he's doing. Here's the thing.
Okay.
If someone else hang on. No. This is my channel. I want to point this out. Here's the problem. If someone else were to put a pin in the discussion and say, you know what, I also tend to believe that there's something fundamental that holds all of reality together, but I can't identify what that is. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I think it's there. And I think that that's good enough to kind of like hold on to reality enough that we can begin making our epistemological and ontological explorations in terms of philosophy, thought, science, all these other kinds of things. Darth's going to show up and insist that if the starting point isn't his specific deity with those specific traits, which, by the way, he hasn't demonstrated whether or specified whether they're properties or facets or whatever, he's going to lose his damn mind. He won't
Can I
allow a
answer?
person. No, hang on. The issue that I have with this, he cannot answer this basic question. His question, usually to attempt to destroy agnosticism, he wants his interlocutor to figure out how to bridge the gap. How is it that you can assert a fact without referencing God, but then turns around and says that facts reference God? So he doesn't even understand category differences. If facts reference God and human beings reference God, do they reference them in the same way? If a human being needs to reference God when referencing facts which reference God, how does that follow? And he can't demonstrate the how. He just insists that that is the why, and then demands atheists to prove that wrong, and it's a complete non sequitur.
Atheists have never shown him wrong, and that's why.
I just did.
No,
I
you did not.
just showed
Let
that was
me
a non
answer.
sequitur.
Let me answer. You have no alternative, and that is shown by this simple question. In order to explain our existence, there has to be a starting point. How do you begin the sequence of events? What is at the beginning, if not an eternal conscious creator? And
Tangelo, not only do you have, not only, hang on, no.
He defines God
Tangelo,
in a very
no,
simple term.
No, hang on. Not only do you have a alternative, you have all the alternatives. He is positing something that he cannot demonstrate. He is claiming that it's necessary without demonstration, and then saying that no one else can demonstrate his necessary thing in opposition. That is, by definition, completely wrong-headed. Anyone else can come along and say that they have a fundamental starting point that gives them the grounding for all of the same epistemological and ontological commitments that Darth is making without even beginning to identify what that thing is. The fact that Darth says it's God doesn't even follow that God is the God of Christianity.
Right.
And yet he expects people to forget that or just overlook it. He is operating in bad faith.
He's not.
Yeah, he is. He's operating in extremely bad faith because he does not mention the Christian God at all. The only time he brings it up is when an atheist tries to bring up the Bible, and he doesn't want to talk about that because that will refute his God. Not the God of the Bible, his God that he made up in his head, and the same for you, the God that you made up in your head.
Okay, here is my question again. In order to explain our existence, there has to be a starting point. How do you begin the sequence of events? What is at the beginning, if not an eternal conscious creator?
That's stupid.
Hold on. Can I intercede here? Otangelo.
Go for it.
Otangelo, can we agree that the starting point should automatically be I don't know? Automatically. That's the default. Can we agree with that?
You can start from an agnostic position, and then go on and make your investigation. I have adopted in all my approach the evidential approach and apologetics, starting from that standpoint at the beginning, a dialogue with atheists. But I am fine as well to start with God's revelation, with the Bible, where he reveals himself to us through the Bible and as well through the natural world, which evidences God. I think this is a very sound approach.
So, sir, Otangelo, I appreciate that response, and that's an honest response. But that is basically a top-down response. That is a response of I am someone who grew up in this geographical location, in this place in the world, and I grew up to believe this belief, and therefore I'm going to try to validate that belief, and I'm going to try to fit it into my worldview. that's not a bottom down approach where we would say the default would be, I don't know. Would you agree with that, sir?
As I said, I am fine, contrary to Darth, which he thinks it is already an admission and a defeat. I don't think so. I am fine to start a dialogue with someone which doesn't hold my belief with an agnostic position, and then building an epistemological framework to investigate origins and going from there and to see where the evidence leads. I am fine with that.
That's great. That's great. So, I mean, you basically just said, I agree that it's possible I was pre-programmed with this belief, and my study of this belief is what has led me to believe it is true. And I am fine with the concept of that the default may be, I don't know. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I don't think that your position is justified. I think that God's existence is self-evident, and I agree with Darth. Well, I agree with Darth in regards of this. I think that the natural world.
What is
can
soldier?
I finish, please? Can I finish, please?
What is?
I would like to finish.
No. I want to ask you this because you just said. What is soldier?
I would like
hang
also
on.
not to be interrupted.
Otangelo, I'm not trying to be unfair. You and I have had conversations before. You mentioned something about soldier of science position. What is soldier of science's position?
Well, I just came in. I mean, what is your position?
I mean, you heard my position. My position is that the default position should be, I don't know. And I mean, you would agree with that. You would agree with the fact that your position comes from a top-down position where you are pre-programmed with the belief, and therefore your intelligence is seeking to justify that pre-programmed belief versus the default position of I don't know.
Okay,
I'm saying the more valid position should be I don't know.
My default position is that there is a God and that it is the God of the Bible based on what I have investigated. And if someone wants to challenge what I regard as the best and most case adequate position, be my guest.
That's what I'm doing. That's absolutely what I'm doing. And so the first claim I made, where you came from a top-down position, right? So your top-down is, I knew about the Bible while I was growing up. This makes sense to me, and therefore I am an intelligent person, and I need to validate whether this is true. But you really haven't stuck yourself in the position of, and maybe you have. Maybe you've stuck yourself in the position of the Muslim who grew up in Saudi Arabia. Maybe you've stuck yourself in the position of the Hindu person who grew up in India, or the Buddhist in rural China, or the spirit gods of the Native Americans 500 years ago. Maybe you've done that. And maybe you still come to the conclusion that your one personal God over all those gods has got to be the true God. And that to me is what is fascinating. So go for it, Otangelo. Go.
Well, my first conversation usually with an atheist is to investigate if there is a God, and I describe God simply as an eternal creator, a conscient, powerful being. I don't identify if it is the God of the Bible or the God of Muslims or what so on. It is just about, is there a God or is there no God? That's the first question in a cumulative case for God's existence. Once this has been elucidated and an atheist eventually comes to the conclusion, oh, yes, it seems that an eternal creator is the better explanation rather than not, then we can move forward and investigate which God of which religion is the most reasonable.
How many atheists have ever said that to you?
Obrigado. I have to say, Otangelo, obrigado for that. No, no. That's a fail. That's a fail because basically what you're trying to do is say, well, I have got to have a philosophical argument of whether a God exists in the first place. And if, when I first came in and joined, I think you guys were talking about Darth Dawkins and the fact that his argument basically comes down to a Plantingian argument of, there's got to be something that is fundamental. And this fundamental being has to be a universal being. It has to be a universal being. It has to be singular, which honestly, Otangelo, you have to admit, when you hear Darth Dawkins talking about something that is fundamental and singular, and then try to explain why there's a Trinitarian God, seems pretty ridiculous, right? I mean, you kind of have to admit, you kind of have to admit that there. You kind of have to go in. How is that possible? Like my mind says, was there just one God before the universe was created? And then when God decided to create the universe, he decided to make the Holy Spirit. And hold on, follow me here. And was the Holy Spirit created so it could move around and navigate through the universe and earth and whatnot? And if God is all knowing and is all everywhere, isn't that redundant already? I mean, like the one God and the Holy Spirit.
There's another.
Isn't that redundant?
No,
there's another issue too because
let me answer to that, please.
Okay.
This is what you are doing. Is what I see.
No, because I want to. Otangelo, hang on, Otangelo, hang on, because I want to kind of compile onto that, all right, before you answer. Because one of the things that I've noticed Darth and some of his followers have done is the sort of notion that God is immutable, right? That's one of the philosophical entailments and commitments that it comes with Darth Dawkins' approach to things. And one of the things that's been brought up before, it's been brought up by other people, is like, okay, well, if God's immutable, then how did he show up in the form of a human being before he was Yahweh, right?
Right.
But now all of a sudden he shows up in the form of a man, and then as that man, he dies and he's resurrected. And people are like, in the usual claim coming from, and this is my problem with it, is that, oh, well, no, he's the same, he's immutable in essence. Okay, well, that essence as a definition is posited from a theological standpoint and then asserted as if it has philosophical weight and is just established as just a standard fact. Well, no, you can't argue with the essence of God. Like, of course you can. Of course you can. Now, from a theological assertion, there's nothing that you can really do about that. If someone asserts that, well, God's essence is unchanging, but that's why God appeared as a human in order to die and be resurrected to forgive the world of its sins. Okay, neat.
Well, that's saying the first time he
who are
came
thinking
down as a
about
human.
a God that is immutable, and then it shows up in the form of a human.
So let me add in there. Otangelo, before you respond, let me add on to that because he made a great point. It is basically exactly what I said. Was there one being of God before it created a Holy Spirit of God, which you would believe maybe both of those existed, but you absolutely know that if those two existed, they existed before Jesus Christ, the third part of that Trinity, was created. You absolutely know that. You would have to absolutely agree with that point, and then your logic would have to say,
unless you go into Kabbalah.
why is this a dualist being? Why is it a dual being that had to then transform into a Trinity being? And that automatically should give you a red flag. That means this is a fundamental being. This is the Darth Dawkins fundamental, has to be singular being that is actually like a cell that is populating. It's gone from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3, And how do we know it's not gone from 3 to 10 in your belief system? I mean, how do you know that this God is not just replicating itself and is now thousands of gods? Go for it.
Okay, what I see you guys do, and this is very common, I would say that 99% of atheists do that. They look what theists claim, like Christians, or the approach which Darth is doing, and so forth.
Instead of saying what they're doing,
can I
how about you
finish,
actually address the
please?
claim?
Can I finish, please? Wow, I
Why
don't
don't you
talk
actually
a
address
minute.
the claim?
Yeah, get to
I'm
the
not
point,
talking for a
dude.
minute.
Yeah,
I'm not
hang on,
talking
Mr.
for
Lizard.
a minute. Listen, I'm not talking for a minute and I'm interrupted. You guys talk for 10 minutes and nobody's saying something. I can leave.
Stop it.
And Tangelo,
I
stop the
just checked
whining
him.
and answer the question.
I just checked him. Go on.
He left.
He left.
I'm sorry about
For
that.
Christ's sake.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it's all your fault, Mr. Lizard. It's all your
Even
fault.
about, like, listen, it was just like, oh my gosh, shut up and actually just
Fucking
say
lizard!
You were
scripture.
you were the final straw. It was your hoity-toity pipe and your weird little monocle and your velociraptor face that's what pushed
Hey,
it over the edge.
It was your weird dinosaur face, like blowing the bag peeps of Scotland, which looks similar to your wee fucking tobacco pipe. It's similar, and that's your fault. He's
I'm
done.
actually sorry. I'm just like, I'm listening to this. I'm like, oh my gosh, just
Soldier of
quote
Science,
scripture or
we've only
something.
met, but your Scottish accent needs some work. Well, guys, I'm gonna wrap this up at this point because I'll wrap this up. This has been going on, I think, for about an hour and a half, so I'll probably wrap this up and call it a night. I plan on doing another one of these in another couple of nights. I might be having one of these with Tom Rabbit and Danny.
Nice.
In a couple of hopefully on Sunday. I'm waiting to hear word back from him. Danny's got stuff going on with school and things like that. I don't know what Tom Rabbit's schedule is, but yeah, I'm just gonna take this off now. Thanks everybody for checking in. I just wanted to cover some of.
Hey, thanks for letting me join. It was
kind
fun.
of like offsides viewpoints. Thanks for checking in.
You cut out there, Jefferson.
Your microphone died.
Sorry. Yeah, I just said thanks
we
for
were go-
letting me join, guys. That was fun.
We were gonna have Darth Dawkins on as a guest, but we ran out of time. So